Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. Now, on yesterday's show, a question popped up, and I thought that would be an interesting thing to explore, so let's see what the question was. AJ Bensinger commented, "But can 30 cutlasses take down a javelin?" Now, the spirit of the question, it sounds a little silly, you know, but okay, you know, because I'm talking about the cutlass, talking about how good the cutlass is, and he's saying, yeah, but can 30 cutlasses take down a javelin? Is it a challenge, or is it just a question? Who knows? Now, maybe he owns a javelin, and he's heard me talking very positively about the cutlass and said, yeah, but can 30 cutlasses take down a javelin? Or maybe he's just, yeah, can 30 cutlasses take down a javelin, do you suppose? Now, of course, the javelin isn't flying yet in game. We don't have access to it. And the cutlass that we currently have in game is not the cutlass that we're going to have, hopefully very soon. But the real problem with these ships is that since neither of them exist in game in a finished state, we don't really have any empirical evidence, if you will, to compare the two, or to basically set up, you know, one javelin, 30 cutlasses, fight, and see who comes out on top. But what it does do, the question itself lays the groundwork for an idea to develop in terms of not looking at ships as, okay, this is this and this is that, and it's a simple mathematical equation, and does one beat the other or not? It's really not like that. It's more a question of, let's say you have 30 pilots in 30 cutlasses. They want to take down a javelin. How do they do it? It's more like a grade school math problem. It works out to 30 pilots plus 30 cutlasses plus X equals dead javelin. Solve for X. What is X? And X is the circumstances in which 30 pilots and 30 cutlasses could equal a dead javelin. What are those circumstances? So you have to go out and you have to explore the idea, and you have to examine it and say, how could this be true? Under what circumstances could this happen? And then, how do I create those circumstances? And that's when you start to move into tactics and doctrine and things of that nature. That's when you move beyond the simple and foolish assessment of, this ship has 3 guns, this ship has 4 guns. 4 guns is better than 3 guns. 4 guns wins. You can't assess ships on that level. You have to look at not only how they are equipped, but how they are used and how well they are used. Are they used in a way that benefits their strengths, or are they used in a way that emphasizes their weaknesses? That's really the question that will give you a more or less correct answer. So the Cutlass pilot's job is to solve that equation so that it is true. The Javelin pilot, his job is to prevent that equation from ever coming true. And that's, you know, the endless back and forth that you're going to have in this type of argument, shall we say. Now, if you own a javelin and you go out on the internet and say, I own a javelin and I dare any 30 Cutlass pilots to try and take my ship out, guaranteed your ship is gone within 24 hours. Guaranteed. Because that is the way the internet is. You don't, with so many people out there, even if 1,000 people can't figure it out, one person will. One person always does. Game designers make this mistake all the time. All the time. Star Citizen, they put in Benny Henge and they think, oh, how long is it going to take them to find it? It was found within minutes. Everyone was just like, hey, look what I found. Hey, I found that too. Yeah, wow, cool. Benny Henge, Benny Henge. World of Warcraft. they create some like impossible riddles that they that they thought were impossible that lead to a mount, and they say, haha, it's going to take people a while to figure this out. 24 hours. Challenge accepted, challenge defeated. If you put something out there like that, and you dare people, I mean, come on. Don't never do that. That's bad juju, buddy. So for like a Cutlass pilot, when you look into it, you have to start thinking, okay, what do I know about javelins? What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? Typical javelin pilot, flying a typical javelin, what am I most likely to run into? How do I defeat that with this ship? Can I defeat it with this ship? What tactics do I have to use? How do I have to go about it? Is there a certain way that I have to fit out my ship? Do I have to make my ship as fast and maneuverable as possible so that his turrets have problems tracking me? Or is the secret to just make fast passes and make my ship as resilient as possible so for that limited amount of time that I'm exposed to his guns, I don't take fatal or critical damage to my ship? And so that way all 30 of us can be making high-speed passes from every direction, and we can just wear him down as his guns are going here, there, and everywhere, trying to figure out who to shoot at. You know, does he have AI gunners? Doesn't he have AI gunners? AI gunners tend to not be the greatest gunners in the world, you know. I mean, people say, oh, no, AI is going to be, like, totally awesome. It's going to be wicked. What do you say? AI is going to be great. Think of every single game that you have ever played. When have you ever not figured out how to beat the computer at it? It may take a week, it may take a month, but sooner or later you figure out the trick, you figure out the hole in its logic, and you go, I can do this, and I can just get past it, or I can just skip past this challenge, yada yada yada. That's the basis of every video game ever. Beat the computer using these parameters, beat the computer, and sometimes go outside of these parameters if you're creative and beat the computer. So to say that, oh no, AI turrets are going to be like totally wicked, bro. You wait and see. People are going to come up to me and they're going to get owned by my turrets, man. People will figure it out. Trust me, they will figure it out. So you have to figure, okay, how am I going to fit out? Now I've dealt with the turrets. How do I deal with possibly the missiles? What type of missiles typically do they use? Can I get in close and get a good look at his ship to see how he's fitted? Where is he strong? Where is he weak? Maybe I can go in there with a crucible one day and just offer to repair his ship. And while I'm repairing his ship, get a closer look at it and see what he's got going on for modules and equipment. Check his ship out. You know, use that information to sit there and then try to figure out, okay, now how do I make this happen? For the Javelin pilot, you're actually working the other side of the problem. Okay, let's say I have a Javelin. I have X amount of turrets. Are they manned by real people or are they manned by AI? Real people, probably they can work together. They can focus fire, whereas if they have a whole bunch of guys coming in from different directions all the time, possibly my turrets are going to end up split if they're AI, one firing here, one firing there. How do I minimize that? How do I cover that weakness or possibly cover that exposure and make sure that they can't exploit it? How do I make my ship so strong that it's going to take more than 30 of these ships to, you know, take me down? How can I make sure that my ship can sponge up enough damage and still stay in, you know, in fighting condition to drive them away or to slowly whittle them down as they're trying to take me out? Could it be a certain way that you may want to fly your ship, a certain doctrine, a certain accepted way of doing things, so that you never say get too close to an asteroid, so that there's something for your enemy to hide behind or use for cover as they approach you? You know, things like that, things that you have to be thinking of. And trust me, you're going to have to be thinking about these things. Javelin, probably not the fastest ship, so you really don't have speed in your corner. So how are you going to defeat that weakness? How are you going to cover that? It's a lot of questions and a lot of things to kind of look at. And of course, we're going to have, hopefully, some time in the near future to explore those questions. And whatever ships that we're getting soon. As we get more systems and more subsystems coming into the game, and as the ships themselves become less of a shell and more of a complete entity in the game, we'll be able to look at these things and say, oh, this is good, this is bad, this works, this doesn't work, this is situational, and it works really well in this situation. Oh, okay. So then how do we create those circumstances every time? Well, that's more a question of tactics and doctrine. It's so much more than just, I have 30 of these, you have one of those, let's see who wins. There's so much to that question, and exploring it sounds like, oh my God, it's going to be such a chore to look into it. It can be very interesting and extremely rewarding when you go and you actually dig deep and say, what are the limits? What can I do with this ship? Instead of saying, oh, I don't know. Can I do this? Can I do that? I don't know. Say, what are the limits of what I can do with the ship? And right now, when insurance isn't really a real thing where you can blow up your ship and just, bring it back out again, right up until that point where in the beta, when things become, okay, no, this is for real now, everything counts, go. Up until then, it's a great time to explore a lot of those ideas and maybe find some things that the developers didn't intend but are in the game or possible either way. So that's kind of my long-winded answer to, can 30 Cutlasses take out a Javelin? Possibly. We don't know yet, but if the Cutlass pilots are committed and the Javelin pilot is kind of lazy, maybe it could very well be possible. And if you're a Javelin pilot, that's the last thing you would want to throw out there on the internet, is like, I dare 30 Cutlass pilots to come and take out my Javelin, huzzah! Because I have a feeling that probably won't end well. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.